DBD has 33 killers, all with unique powers and characteristics, and while some are very simple to understand, others not so much. So let's take a look at each of them, and if you need to, check the timestamps below. The Trapper is a setup character, with average speed and a normal terror radius. He is the character you will do your tutorial with. He starts the trial with 2 bear traps in his inventory by default, and the 8 additional bear traps will spawn scattered close to generators that you can pick up by interacting with them. You can carry a maximum of 2 bear traps, and when you reach the max, he will make a sound. By using and holding your power button, you can place and arm a bear trap below. You can also rearm a disarmed bear trap on the ground instead of picking it up. Anytime you set a bear trap, you will also get a speed boost for 5 seconds in order to help you move around the map and catch up to survivors. When a survivor steps over a bear trap, they become immobilized. They get injured if they were healthy, and also they will scream and make a loud noise notification, which reveals their location in case they are far away from you. If you come to a trapped survivor, you can hit them, downing them in the process, or you can just pick them up. Now be careful, because just like survivors, if you walk over a bear trap yourself, you will get temporarily stunned. This is especially dangerous if you're carrying a survivor, as they will escape from your grasp. A survivor that is trapped can attempt to free themselves, which can take up to 6 tries. Another survivor can help them escape the bear trap faster. If a survivor finds an armed bear trap, they can disarm it by interacting with it, which will cause a loud notification for the trapper, alerting you to their location. Despite being a very straightforward character, the Trapper requires a lot of map knowledge to use, as you need to place your bear traps to control one specific part of the map, or place them in strong loops or narrow hallways to prevent survivors from running there and create choke points. Just remember not to put your bear traps too close to the window, or survivors will be able to jump over them, and also don't put the traps in the middle of pallets and survivors can just throw the pallet down and vault them. Random traps in the most common survivor hotspots is also an amazing idea, as it will make survivors more paranoid, forcing them to play more carefully in order to prevent getting trapped. You also need to be careful of your own trap placement, as survivors have a smaller hitbox than you, meaning that if you place a bear trap poorly, survivors will be able to squeeze through it while you can't, forcing you to either get stunned or to grab it from the ground. The Wraith is a stealth killer with an average speed and terror radius and with one of the easiest powers in the game, so I heavily recommend him if you just started to play. The Wraith starts the match cloaked, which makes him partially invisible and also undetectable, which means he doesn't have a terror radius, doesn't have the red stain in front of him, and his aura cannot be revealed by survivor perks. While cloaked, the Wraith is very fast, moving significantly faster than survivors, but he cannot attack. However, what he can do is break pallets, walls, generators, and open lockers. From a survivor's point of view, when they are 20 meters close to the Wraith, they can see a faint shimmer as well as hear his loud breathing noise. So attentive survivors will be able to know your location even if you are cloaked. However, from 20 meters away, the Wraith is completely invisible. This also happens if you stand still, but there is no reason to do that. In order to attack survivors, Wraith has to uncloak, and this can be done with his wailing bell. By ringing his bell while cloaked, you will slow down a lot, and once you fully reveal yourself, you will get a short speed boost to help you catch up to survivors, which you can use to attack in order to gain a very insane lunge attack. You can also use the bell again at any time in order to cloak yourself, which won't reduce your speed and will make you invisible again. The bell noise can be heard from 24 meters away, however, the cloaking whoosh noise can be heard 40 meters away. Be careful, however, because if you are stunned while you are cloaked, the stun will last for 4 seconds and you will get automatically revealed. The biggest asset of the Wraith is definitely his speed, and you need to use it to traverse all around the map in order to surprise survivors and catch them off guard with your invisibility. Mastering the short speed boost after uncloaking is crucial in order to get some nasty hits in certain loops, making them unsafe for survivors. Don't forget that you have collision while invisible, so you can body block survivors that attempt to escape while repairing a generator or block their path towards a window or a pallet to secure a hit thanks to your speed. Just be careful while body blocking, because by doing it wrong, you risk getting stunned, and that 4-second stun hurts. The Hillbilly is an aggressive killer with average speed, a normal turn radius, but one of the most mechanically complex powers in the game. The power is pretty simple to understand. It's a chainsaw. By using your power, you can charge your chainsaw, and once charged, you begin a chainsaw sprint, moving insanely fast with limited turning control. The chainsaw is also insanely loud, so survivors will know when you are using it. If you hit a survivor with it, that survivor will instantly be put in the dying state. If you hit a wall, you will get stunned in place. And if you hit a pallet or breakable wall, you will break them. You can also stop the chainsaw at any point if you stop holding your power button. Hillbilly has an annoying mechanic called overheat. The more you use your chainsaw, the hotter it will get. If you reach the maximal threshold, you will have to wait until your chainsaw cools down before you can use it again. However, if the chainsaw overheats while you are sprinting, you won't get interrupted, and instead, the cooldown period will only start after you stop. There are two important mechanics to know with his chainsaw. The first one is that you can feather your chainsaw, which means you can tap the button to charge it instead of holding it, so you have more control over your chainsaw, either to fake it or to cancel it. This is especially useful when you are close to a survivor in order to insta-down them. The second important feature is that at the start of every chainsaw sprint, your sensibility will increase by a lot, which makes it possible to curve your chainsaw, allowing you to take some insane corners if you master it. Hillbilly is a very difficult killer to master, so my biggest advice for beginners is to use your chainsaw to traverse around the map in order to find survivors or pressure them off generators, and try to use it aggressively in safe places like dead zones or when you catch survivors very close to you. As a tip, look down when you're charging your chainsaw close to a survivor in order to make it easier for you to hit it. Mastering the curve will take a lot of time and practice, and part of it is knowing which surfaces you can slide off and which ones you cannot. But there are plenty of amazing resources around YouTube in case you fall in love with the Hillbilly's playstyle. I strongly recommend SofaRex for his amazing Hillbilly gameplays and his guide that is still great to this day. The nurse is a very unique aggressive killer, with the slowest speed out of everyone, a basic turn radius, and the strongest power in the game by far. When I said the nurse is slow, I meant it. She is slower than running survivors. This means that you are forced to use your power in order to chase survivors. Her power is the blink, and she has two of them. By pressing and holding your power button, you can start charging a blink, which will slow you down. The longer you charge it, the further you will blink, up to 20 meters. After you use your first blink, there is a short period of time where you can either attack or charge your second blink to chain it and blink again, but you can also wait it out. Once you blink, miss, or attack, the nurse will enter a short fatigue period where your screen will obscure, you will look down, and you cannot attack nor charge your blink again. Blinks need to be recharged after you use them, so it's recommended to not use both of your blinks constantly unless you are sure you can get a hit. Your blinks also make a lot of noise, so survivors will be able to hear you no matter where you are. The thing that makes this power so strong is the fact that the nurse can bypass any walls, windows, and pallets with her blink. You can even teleport across ceilings, making her an insane monster in specific maps with 2 floors. The only things she cannot bypass are map borders, so be careful, as some maps have these borders inside the playable area, which will interrupt your blink. The key to playing the nurse well is to learn her blinking distance with muscle memory, and blink with precision on top of survivors so they have no chance to dodge. You might lose your first matches, but once you get the hang of it, the nurse is not that hard, and you will get insane results very easily. One trick I can share that is very simple to do is to look down in case you don't want to teleport too far away. Some survivors will go towards you when you start charging your blink, so by looking down, you don't overshoot your blink, and you can correct it for a hit. This tip, however, doesn't work when you are near the basement or when you are on a second floor. And please, remember this very important fact: her blink attacks are not basic attacks. This means you cannot use perks like Jolt, Sloppy Butcher, or Hex No One Escapes Death, as those require basic hits. Please be careful when choosing your loadout and make sure the perk doesn't require a basic attack in order to get activated. The Shape, also known as Michael Myers, is a stealth killer with unique speeds and terror radius during the match. Let's talk about it. His power is called Evil Within, and it has different tiers. Myers will start the match in Evil Within Tier 1, and in this state he is undetectable, but in exchange he is slower than usual and also has a very short attack range. In order to increase your Evil Within level, you have to stalk the survivors. By pressing and holding the power button, you enter stalking mode. In this mode, you move slower, and the moment you stalk a survivor, you become even more slowed down. Stalking a survivor will absorb their evil, which is something that doesn't reset. This means that you can stalk a survivor so much that they no longer feel your evil within. The redder their aura is while stalking them indicates how little evil they have left. You also absorb their evil faster the closer you are to them. And by the way, despite looking like you do, you can only stalk one survivor at the same time. So if there are multiple survivors, you will only stalk and absorb the closest survivor to you. Also, you lose collision while stalking, so you cannot body block a survivor. Once you stalk enough survivors to feel your evil within, a global sound will be heard all over the map. Congratulations, you are on Tier 2. On Tier 2, Myers will have a 16-meter terror radius, which is half of the basic one. You also move with normal movement speed, your attack range is normal, and you vault windows a little bit faster. In this state, you basically play like a normal killer with a smaller terror radius, and this will be the tier you will be for the majority of the match. And by stalking enough survivors to completely feel your evil within Tier 2 meter, you will enter Evil Within Tier 3, and all survivors will hear this menacing tune. This tier will only last for 60 seconds, but during those 60 seconds, all survivors will be exposed, which means you can instantly down them with one hit. Your terror radius increases to 32 meters, which is the normal size. Your attack range increases, and you vault windows even faster. However, you cannot stalk survivors, and also you move at normal speed. Once the duration ends, you will return to Tier 2, and you will have to stalk survivors again to reach Tier 3. No matter what, you cannot return back to Tier 1. The first thing you need to do as Michael Myers is to level up to Tier 2 as soon as possible. So find a survivor early, stalk them, and only then you can play the game normally. A crucial tip into playing Myers well is to stalk survivors enough to almost reach Tier 3, and this way you make sure that you activate your power only when you need it, for example when chasing a healthy survivor, so don't waste your Tier 3 against injured survivors. Another tip is that you want to get the maximum value of your limited power, so sometimes it's best to down a survivor and instead of picking them up, you leave them on the ground to slug them. You can also hook them while in Tier 3 in order to force the survivors to act, as most survivors play in a very safe way once they know you are on Tier 3. Remember that there is a limited amount of stalking points per survivor, so try not to milk them dry in order to be able to activate your Tier 3 whenever you need it. The Hag is a setup killer with a slow speed, a 24-meter terror radius, and shorter height. The Hag starts the game with 10 mud traps, and that's also the total she can have in the map. By pressing the power button, the Hag will draw a phantasm trap on the ground, and if you have 10 traps already, using your power again will replace the oldest trap with your newer one. When a survivor walks or runs near a phantasm trap, it will activate, creating a loud noise that can be heard all over the map, jumpscaring the survivors and spawning a mood phantasm, a fake version of the hag. The survivor's camera will be quickly yanked to look at the mood phantasm, which will face the direction of the survivor that triggered the trap and will come with a fake terror radius. After some seconds, the phantasm disappears. Here is the special part. If the hag is 40 meters close to the trigger trap, you can use your secondary power button to teleport to the phantasm, replacing it with the real hag, allowing you to injure survivors or to start a chase with them instantaneously, and you will need to do this as the hag is otherwise slow. Since the mud trap will always face the survivors that trigger the trap, this means that when you teleport, you will also face the direction of the survivor that activated it. Whenever you place a mood trap, you can see the range of it with a special effect only visible to the killer. However, survivors with an eagle's eye can see the mood traps on the ground, and they do not activate it if a survivor is crouching inside the trigger range. If a survivor comes close to the trap, they can simply wipe it out, which takes 3.5 seconds, neutralizing it and also not giving any notification to the killer besides refunding them their trap. The hag is a very territorial killer, and as such you need to play her that way. Choose a part of the map you will defend that contains generators and keep bringing survivors close to that web of traps like a spider does to its prey. You don't have to always teleport. Sometimes it's best to fake it in order to make the survivors nervous as they will try to predict the teleport, and other times survivors will activate traps intentionally only to waste your time. Remember that the mood phantasm will always face the direction of the survivors, so if the trap is activated far away from you, at the very least, you will be able to know the direction of where the survivor is running. Also, don't sleep on the camera distraction from the hag. Anytime the trap activates, especially if survivors don't expect it, you can disorient them and make them run into a wall or away from a pallet, which can give you the extra milliseconds necessary to injure or down them. So try to place your traps in a more strategic way. The Doctor is an anti-loop killer with normal speed, a normal terror radius, and with a unique status effect called Madness, just like the one I have for writing the script of this video. The Doctor has two abilities in order to give survivors madness. The first ability is the shock therapy attack, and you can use it with your primary power button. Once charged, the Doctor will perform a shock attack in front of him that will come out after a short delay. Survivors hit by the electricity will scream, interrupting whatever they were doing, and they won't be able to perform any actions for 2.5 seconds, and this includes dropping pallets, vaulting windows, and repairing generators or saving survivors. The shock therapy is very loud, so survivors will be able to hear it all across the map. This is your primary anti-loop power that will help you get some hits if you time the shock correctly. Just make sure not to spam it as you get slowed down when you charge it. Each time a survivor is hit with a shock therapy attack, their madness will increase by half, so 2 shock therapy attacks will increase their madness by 1 tier. The second ability is the static blast, and you activate it by holding your secondary power button. The Doctor will start charging the static blast, which makes a global sound that all survivors can hear. Once charged, the Doctor will shock all across his terror radius, forcing survivors inside the terror radius to scream, revealing their location, and interrupt whatever they were doing. Once activated, Static Blast will enter a long 1-minute cooldown until it can be used again. Static Blast will also increase the madness of survivors by 1 tier. However, be careful, as survivors inside a locker will completely ignore the Static Blast, so keep this in mind. Static Blast is one of the best tracking tools in Dead by Daylight, so use it at the start to find survivors once you move far enough from your spawn, and use it anytime you want to find those pesky survivors that are hiding. So what is Madness exactly? Madness is a negative debuff that survivors will get, with 3 levels total. You can see the Madness tier on survivors based on the static around their icon in the HUD, with the stronger static indicating a higher Madness. Every time a survivor increases their Madness level, they scream, revealing their location. On Madness tier 1, survivors have a 33% chance of getting Madness skill checks, which are skill checks with a weird effect, like them being reversed or them spawning off center. On Madness tier 2, the chance of the madness skill checks increases to 66%, and also, sometimes survivors will hallucinate a fake doctor illusion spawning near them. On madness tier 3, survivors will randomly scream, they cannot use their items nor interact with other survivors or generators, and the doctor will be able to see the fake illusion's aura. Survivors in madness tier 3 will have to snap out of it, which will return them to madness tier 1. And you thought that's all for the doctor? No, because he has another important thing in his kit, add-ons. The Carter's Notes add-ons will all come with special madness effect each, with the most popular ones being spawning fake illusionary palettes around the map, hearing an illusionary distant terror radius, seeing a red stain and fake terror radius while in a chase, or all of the above at the same time. Truth be told, the doctor is not that hard to understand. I understand that most of you will have the TikTok brain rot and cannot read more than 2 lines of text before falling asleep without a Family Guy funny moments video somewhere on the screen, but his power is actually pretty simple. Shock survivors, they scream, you catch them. In fact, he has one of the best tracking powers in the game, so if you are bored of survivors hiding themselves and you want a character to constantly chase them, the Doctor is a great pick for beginners. The Huntress is a ranged killer, with a slow speed, a 20 meters terror radius, and a 45 meters lullaby. Her power is very straightforward. Press your power button to wind up a hatchet throw, release the button to throw the hatchet, or press the attack button to cancel it. The longer you charge the hatchet, the faster and with less curve it will fly. Once you hear this sound, it means the hatchet has charged to the max. But keep in mind that survivors near you can also hear this noise. The Huntress has 5 hatches by default, and you can reload them at any locker around the map. Once you have no hatchets, the lockers will have the hatchet aura inside be revealed to you, so you can find a locker easier. Now let's talk about the lullaby. The Huntress will constantly sing a lullaby for the remainder of the trial that survivors can hear from 45 meters away. She will only stop singing when attacking or when throwing a hatchet. With the Huntress, practice makes perfect. One of the hardest things for beginners with this character is how she has no crosshair whatsoever, which can make it hard to know where the middle of the screen is. But the devs have said that you can use the crosshair that comes with some monitors if you want. This is one of the characters that is very easy to pick and play, and also offers an insane skill ceiling, as there is much to learn. For starters, try to use your hatchet when you know a survivor will take a window or a pallet, as they will be locked in an animation. And remember to have patience and hold your hatchets instead of spamming it. You can also use your hatchet from up close and injure survivors with your basic attack after, as the cooldown is shorter than a basic attack. The Huntress also has a lot of potential for injuring various survivors at once, so take advantage of that. The Cannibal, also known as Leatherface, is an aggressive killer with a standard speed and terror radius. Bubba starts the match with 3 charges in his chainsaw. By using your power button, you will begin charging the chainsaw in order to consume 1 charge and enter a chainsaw dash. Each token is 2 seconds of a chainsaw dash, and each time you press your power button during a dash, you will consume a token and extend it for an extra 2 seconds. During this dash, you become faster, and any survivors hit by your dash will get instantly downed, and you can actually hit various survivors with the same dash. You can also break pallets and breakable walls with it, just like with Hillbilly. However, there is a very big catch. If you collide with any wall during your chainsaw dash, you will enter a tantrum. In this mode, Leatherface will widely slash the chainsaw around him and will be slowed down drastically. However, survivors can be hit during this state, and also you can break pallets with it. A trick a lot of Leatherface players do against survivors that enter lockers to try and dodge the chainsaw is to intentionally collide with a locker, and in this case, survivors have to time it out perfectly in order to leave, or else they will get downed. The chainsaw charges will replenish by themselves once you stop using the chainsaw. Also, you can trigger the tantrum by constantly charging your chainsaw, but this is so rare that honestly you don't have to worry about it ever. Despite having a very bad reputation as a basement camper, the gameplay of Leatherface is actually really fast paced and requires a good amount of mechanical skills in order to get the best chainsaw dashes. He can destroy pallets extremely fast, so the biggest counter to him are vault locations, which is why I strongly recommend Bamboozle if you like his playstyle, a perk from the clown that blocks vaults once you vault them. The Nightmare, also known as Freddy Krueger, is a hybrid killer with a standard speed and terror radius, and a secondary lullaby who is able to bring survivors to the dream world. Freddy Krueger has a lot of parts to his power, but each of them are very simple. The first and most important part is the sleeping mechanic. Survivors will passively fall asleep after 1 minute, and also they will instantly fall asleep if you hit them with a basic attack. The second mechanic he has is his stealth. Freddy is completely invisible 32 meters away, and will only appear intermittently from 16 to 32 meters. Any closer than that, and you can see him at all times. However, survivors that are asleep will hear a lullaby instead of a terror radius. Freddy Krueger's first power allows him to place dream snares on the ground by holding your primary power button. Dream snares will slow down any asleep survivors walking on top of them, and also they will make a loud noise that reveals the location of the survivors. Freddy's secondary power is called Dream Projection, and it allows you to teleport to any unrepaired generator in the map with your secondary power button. Once you select a generator to teleport to, that gen will start to bleed and a fake Freddy will appear from it. You can stop channeling the Dream Projection in order to fake a teleport, which will give your power a short cooldown penalty. This power has a 45-second cooldown, and it charges faster the more asleep survivors there are. Remember that you can only teleport to unrepaired generators, as any repaired or blocked gens will not allow you to teleport to them. There are various ways to wake up as a survivor. First of all, failing a skill check or getting hooked will wake you up. Survivors can wake up asleep teammates by interacting with them, which will play a short animation. The more you get woken up by this method, the longer the waking up animation will take for each consequent attempt. Survivors can also interact with alarm clocks that will be revealed to them once they are asleep, and this alarm clock will give them an extra 30 seconds of protection against falling asleep, as you can see it in the HUD with a yellow border. Freddy is one of the only killers that has a special secondary power locked behind an add-on. These add-ons will replace your dream snares with dream pallets, which are fake pallets that you can set in pallet spawns that can trick survivors into throwing them. These pallets will instead explode and do nothing else, and can be only seen by asleep survivors. While this is a fun power to have, especially against beginners, overall, the dream snares are significantly better. Your generator teleport is by far the strongest part of your kit, as it will allow you to defend generators no matter where you are in the map. Dream snares are a simple tool that will help you down survivors in basic loops. However, since you only have 6, I recommend putting 1 or 2 as traps for the future and use most of them actively in a chase instead of setting a territory like the Trapper or the Hag, as asleep survivors can easily disarm the traps with basically no consequences. Remember that your power only works on asleep survivors, so don't waste your time putting traps at the start, since they will be completely useless for the first minute of the match. The Pig is a hybrid stealth killer with average speed and a normal terror radius, able to test the will to live of survivors with her reverse bear traps. The Pig's secondary power is the crouch, and it's the main power you will have at all times. By pressing the secondary power button, the Pig will be able to crouch, lowering her POV, making her considerably slower but giving her the undetectable status effect. While crouched, the Pig will be able to break generators and pallets, but she cannot do a basic attack. Instead, her attack is replaced with an ambush attack. By pressing your attack button, Amanda will start charging an ambush attack, making a very loud and distinct noise that will alert survivors of your presence. Once charged, Amanda will dash forward with a fast speed for a short duration, and if it hits a survivor, they get injured. This ambush offers a lot of flexibility and control, with the only thing you cannot do is going back, but you can turn freely with your camera. This attack will automatically uncrouch the Pig. The primary power of the Pig are the reverse bear traps. She starts the match with 4 reverse bear traps by default, and she can place them on survivors that are downed. The reverse bear trap will be inactive when you first place it on a survivor, and the timer will only start once a generator has been completed. Once active, you will see the icon change from grey to red, and survivors will have 150 seconds in order to get rid of the bear trap, and this will be represented by both the HUD for survivors and a beeping noise in the bear trap that the pig can see, that will become faster and redder the less amount of time the survivors have. If the timer goes down to 0, it's game over. There are 5 jigsaw boxes scattered around the map, and survivors will have to search them until they find a key for their trap. If the box doesn't contain a key, Billy the puppet will laugh at them. If it does, they will get rid of the bear trap. It can take a maximum of 4 attempts in order to find a key, and the game is coded in a way that guarantees 12 searches total by default, all shared by survivors. That means one survivor can get it on their first try, while another 2 will have to search 4 boxes. However, some important things to remember is that the timer of the reverse bear trap will pause when a survivor is downed, hooked, or while in a chase. Also, survivors with an inactive bear trap can escape the trial, but a survivor with an active bear trap cannot, as the bear trap will instantly trigger. They can, however, escape through the hatch. Live or die, make your choice. The pig is a jack of all trades, master of none. She has mediocre stealth, a mediocre anti-loop attack, and a nice slowdown. A mistake a lot of new players do is crouching with the pig constantly, but the problem is that this crouching makes you so slow, it's not recommended at all. Instead, try to crouch only when you know survivors are in a specific area, or when you want to use your ambush attack. Don't expect your reverse bear traps to pop, as 150 seconds is more than enough for survivors to get rid of their traps. Instead, think of your traps as means to force survivors not to repair gens, and instead waste their time running around the map in order to get rid of them. The clown is an aggressive killer with an average speed and a normal terror radius, and one of the simplest powers in the game. The clown's power is to throw gas bottles that will either slow down the survivors or give an increase of speed. A gas will be shown on the bottom left of the screen, which will show the type of bottles you are holding. Tapping the secondary power button will switch the type of bottles you have, and holding it will allow you to reload the bottles. The clown starts with 4 bottles total by default, and this ammo count is shared between both of them, regardless of the color. By using your power button, the clown will aim the bottle he is holding, charging it. The longer it is charged, the further the bottle will be thrown. Once the bottle impacts a survivor or an obstacle, it will explode, expanding gas in an area. The clown's main bottle is the Afterpiece Tonic, or the purple gas. These bottles will explode on any contact and will release a purple gas for 10 seconds. Any survivors that inhale this gas will be slowed down by 10%. It makes them scream and cough during the duration of it, and their vision will be obscured drastically. The slowdown will only last 2 seconds after leaving the gas, but the clown is completely immune to this purple gas. The clown's secondary bottles is the Afterpiece Antidote, or the yellow ones. Just like the purple bottles, they work the same. However, instead, the gas once released will be white, and after a short period of time, it will become yellow. Both the clown and the survivors that inhale the yellow gas will get the invigorated status effect, which will increase their speed by 10% for 5 seconds, and it will also remove the effects of the purple gas. As an added bonus, hitting a direct shot with the bottle will interrupt whatever action the survivor was doing. The clown's power is very simple, as it's either slowing down the survivors or boosting your speed. Be careful with your yellow bottle placement, as you can accidentally give survivors a speed boost instead of slowing them down. Use your yellow bottles to traverse the map around, or put them below you before you pick up a survivor or before you reload in order to keep the speed boost after you finish, so you can move around the map faster. The main power of the clown is to throw a purple gas to survivors, boost yourself with a yellow bottle, and then you will be able to catch up to them in almost any loop. The spirit is an aggressive killer with a slow speed and terror radius of 24 meters. Her power is both very scary and very dangerous. Pressing and holding your power button will charge and then start a phase walk, which allows the spirit to enter the ethereal plane, leaving a husk of the spirit behind and becoming fully invisible. As long as you're holding the power button, and as long as there are charges of her power, the spirit will stay in the ethereal plane. Inside this plane, she has an extremely fast movement speed, but she is unable to see survivors, nor she can see pools of blood. Instead, she can only see scratch marks, and she can also hear them. The spirit can be inside a total of 5 seconds by default, and once she exits the ethereal plane, she will keep the speed boost for a short period of time, allowing her to perform an attack with extra range. Her original husk will be destroyed, and her power will take 15 seconds to recharge. Survivors inside the terror radius of the spirit will be able to hear her phasing sound. This phasing sound is directional, so survivors with a good ear will be able to know the location of the spirit while she is phasing. The spirit also has passive phasing, which can only be seen from a survivor's point of view. She will randomly glitch out of existence for short periods of time, which can confuse survivors during looping. The trick to play the spirit is to have an amazing pair of headsets, so you don't even dare playing her on speaker. You need to hear the footsteps of the survivors, as well as the grunts of pain they make while injured. With the spirit, you can end chases extremely fast thanks to your speed and the extra attack lunge, so use that to your advantage. And remember that some survivors will try to mind game you while you are phasing, either by walking or by slowly vaulting pallets and windows. Try to use your power to move around the map, but don't waste all of your charges as you need them during a chase. The Legion are fast-paced killers with an average speed and normal terror radius. Despite being 4 members, it's purely cosmetic and you can only play as one of them in the match. Their power is the Feral Frenzy. Once the power gauge is full, press the power button to start running, increasing their movement speed and allowing them to vault both windows and pallets with an increased speed. Their attack during this mode will be replaced with Feral Slash. Using Feral Slash against a healthy survivor will injure them and put them in deep wounds, and it will recharge your Feral Frenzy to full and also reveal the location of any survivors within your terror radius with the Killer Instinct. Each slash you perform against a survivor that is not in deep wounds will increase your speed even further, and after a combo of 4 successful Feral Slashes, you are able to instantly down a survivor with your 5th attack, regardless if they are in deep wound or if they are healthy. However, getting stunned, hitting a deep wounded survivor, or missing your attack will cancel the Feral Frenzy, forcing you into a fatigue period of time where you will have to wait for your power to charge back again. You can also intentionally cancel your power before it runs out if you desire. One downside of Feral Frenzy is that you are not able to see scratch marks nor pools of blood while in this state. Survivors that are in deep wounds will have their screen obscured, as well as they will have a timer that will go down if they are not running. Survivors will have to mend their deep wounds before they are able to heal, and if they don't and the timer runs out, they will be instantly downed. Something that beginner Legion players don't know is that they are able to break generators, open lockers, and pick up survivors while in Feral Frenzy, so you don't need to cancel your power to perform those actions. In fact, Feral Frenzy will reveal survivors that are hiding inside a locker. The Legion are very aggressive, and you have to play them as such. They will have the easiest first hit in the entire game, so use that to your advantage. Stab a survivor, find another one, run, stab, repeat. If no survivors are found, cancel your Feral Frenzy and chase after that first survivor. The key to counter the Legion is to simply split up, so as long as survivors are close together, make sure to combo all of them in order to get that juicy 5th hit. The Plague is a very unique ranged killer, with a standard speed and terror radius. My dear viewers with emetophobia, it's time to skip to the next part of the video. The Plague's power is the Vile Purge. By pressing your power, you're able to charge it, and releasing it will cause the Plague to puke her infectious bile. This puke can infect anything survivors can interact with, these being chests, generators, pallets, windows, lockers, items, exit gates, for 40 seconds. So any survivor interacted with that infected item will become sick. If you hit a survivor directly, they will also get sickness. Survivors have a sickness meter that will fill up slowly passively, and also the more you puke on them. After reaching maximum sickness, survivors will become injured and will suffer from the broken status effect, which means they cannot be healed by normal means like medkits or other survivors. These 6 survivors will infect anything they come in contact with, and also they will randomly vomit. In order to heal themselves, these survivors will have to interact with pools of devotion. These pools will spawn scattered around the map and will allow infected survivors to cleanse themselves and be healed fully. However, after a pool is used, a global sound effect will be played, and it will become a corrupted pool of devotion. The plague can consume that corruption in order to get corrupt purge. The plague will always spawn with one pool of devotion corrupted by default at the start of the match. When the plague consumes a pool of corruption, a global sound will play. In this state, the plague will have red sparkles coming out of her, and her puke will become red, and instead of infecting survivors, it will directly injure them. While in this state, the plague will be hearing constant whispers that will make it a bit hard to hear environmental clues. The corrupt purge lasts for 60 seconds, but it can be removed earlier if you get stunned by any means. Some important facts you need to know is that if all pools in the map become corrupted, the plague will automatically receive the corrupt purge, but all pools of devotion will be reset. Another fact is that her corrupt purge can penetrate survivors, but you cannot down a survivor with the same corrupt purge stream. You will always have to attack them twice, so don't waste your time. The plague is one of the most unique killers in the entire game, so playing her is a completely different experience than playing any other killer. Her range attack is a stream, which is unusual for a lot of first-person games, but it is also by far the strongest ranged attack in the game, as with good aiming and knowledge, you are able to get multiple downs really quickly. I recommend using your power to the max instead of just downing one survivor, as it only lasts a minute, and most importantly, remember that you can puke on a healthy hooked survivor in order to infect them, in case you forget to do so when your corrupt purge ends. The Ghostface is a stealth killer with an average speed and a normal terror radius. He is a stalker, just like Michael Myers, only in a different way. The Ghostface power is the Night Shroud. By pressing your power button while the power is charged, you will enter the Night Shroud state. In this state, you become undetectable and you get access to your stalking power. However, be careful, as you can easily get removed from the Night Shroud by missing an attack, getting stunned, and most importantly, by other survivors exposing you. If a survivor looks in your direction for enough time, you will forcibly exit the Night Shroud. You will have to wait 24 seconds before being able to use your power again. While on Night Shroud, the Ghostface can stalk survivors one by one, increasing their stalk meter. You can also lean on walls and obstacles in order to stalk twice as fast. Once a survivor is fully stalked, they become marked, giving them the exposed status effect for 1 minute. These survivors won't be able to expose you out of Night Shroud during the time they are marked. Ghostface can also crouch like the pig, in order to hide himself or reposition. He walks slower in this state, but he can attack, and he doesn't have the undetectable status effect outside of Night Shroud. A trick a lot of Ghostface players do is stalk survivors until they are 99% marked, and wait for the opportunity to catch them off guard by popping your power and stalking them while in a chase. This is way more effective than stalking them from afar, as they will get a warning that you are coming and they will run earlier. Try to always arrive from weird angles towards survivors, and use obstacles and high walls to hide yourself. You need to play as a stalker and an ambusher, not as a chase killer, as outside of that, you are a simple M1 character. The Demogorgon is an aggressive killer with an average speed, a normal terror radius, and is also the only killer in the game that is no longer available, so making a beginner's guide is kinda pointless, but whatever. Its main power is the Shred. By pressing and holding your power button, the Demogorgon will open its petal mouth, charging his Shred. You don't have to charge it to the max to shred, but the longer you do, the further it will go. This Shred attack will launch Demogorgon forwards in a very fast speed, and any survivor hit by it will get injured. You can also break pallets and breakable walls with it. If you hit any obstacles or if you miss, the Demogorgon will be stunned for a little while. By pressing your secondary power button, The Demogorgon will place an inactive portal below. You can place up to 6 portals around the map. If you stand on top of a portal and you look at another one, you're able to teleport to the portal you're looking at, activating both portals. This will make a global sound effect that all survivors will hear. Emerging from a portal will grant you the undetectable status effect for a short period of time, but you make so much noise that this effect is mostly pointless. Once a portal is active, survivors will be able to see it. Survivors near active portals will also be marked with Killer Instinct every time you're charging your shred. If they come too close to a portal, they will get the Oblivious status effect and they will be able to interact with it to seal them. This will also make a global sound that will warn the demo that his portals were sabotaged. Remember that you cannot break your portals by default or replace them, so if you place them in a bad spot, the only way to get them back is to have survivors break them. So your portal placements must be very good in order to allow you to pressure generators easily. If you cannot find anyone, try to open your mouth in case any survivors are found near your portals. Also, you need to start using your shred more. You can start charging it just to make survivors nervous and hit them with your basic attack. Demogorgon is extremely loud, and basically any action you do can be heard by the survivors no matter where they are in the map, so don't try to play too stealthily. The Oni is an aggressive killer with an average speed and terror radius that can punish survivor mistakes by a lot. The Oni starts the match with no power. Instead, the Oni will have to injure survivors so they start dropping blood orbs, which he can absorb by holding his power button. These blood orbs will be dripping from the survivors anytime they are doing actions like repairing, healing others, or vaulting pallets and windows, and these will stay on the map until either the Oni absorbs them or the limit of blood orbs is reached and they are replaced by fresher ones. Once the Oni absorbs enough blood orbs, he will be able to activate Blood Fury. Once active, the Oni will scream, alerting all survivors that he has entered this mode. Instead of using the katana, the Oni will grab his kanabo, and he will be able to dash forward at an incredible speed with limited turning. Even if he dashes into something, he won't get stunned, unlike the Hillbilly. While on this mode, you can use your power to attack a survivor with your kanabo, and this will instantly down them. You can also break pallets and breakable walls instantly if you attack them while on this state. You can attack normally too, with a short kanabo attack that won't injure fully, or a long kanabo attack that will break pallets and instantly down survivors too. Blood Fury will last for 45 seconds by default, and each time you down a survivor, 7 seconds will be removed from your timer. You can also cancel this mode by picking up a survivor from the ground, or by waiting for the Blood Fury to end, and survivors will be able to hear this sound, meaning it's over. One detail is that the Oni will passively charge his Blood Fury without any blood orbs, but this takes an insane amount of time, and it will only charge up to 99%. You need to absorb a blood orb in order to get the full power. The Oni is one of the scariest killers in the game once he gets enough blood orbs. Survivors will try to play safe at the start of the match, since you will be a simple M1 killer with no power whatsoever. After that first hit, however, the match completely changes, so you can keep snowballing the game with constant blood orbs until everyone is dead, and the best Oni players can end the match with just 2 usages of the power. His snowball potential is insane, making him one of the best killers to play. And by the way, just in case you were not aware, the Oni is related to the spirit. Now you know a free fun fact about the lore of the game. The Deathslinger is a ranged killer, with a slower speed and a normal terror radius, able to bring your Call of Duty needs into Dead by Daylight. His power is the Redeemer, in other words, a spear gun. Press and hold the power button to start aiming this gun with your iron sights, and fire it by attacking. This will shoot a spear projectile that will travel 18 meters really quick, and if this projectile connects with a survivor, you can start reeling them in. Hold the power button to start reeling the survivors towards you in order to hit them with the bayonet of your gun. Anytime there is a wall or an obstacle touching the chain, you will see it become orange. and this will increase the speed at which the chain breaks. If the chain is fully broken, it will stun the Deathslinger, the speared survivor will escape from the spear gun, but if they are healthy, they will get injured and also get the deep wound status effect. Another thing you can do is cancel your spear gun by attacking and missing your basic attack intentionally. This will remove the spear from the survivors without injuring them or giving them deep wounds. You will have to reload your gun after shooting by pressing the secondary power button. Deathslinger's power is pretty straightforward. You point, you shoot, you reel back. You can hit through windows and walls if you reel them in close to you, so you don't have to worry about them. You can also move back while reeling in order to reel the survivors closer to you. But this doesn't make the reeling speed any faster. Instead, it will only move you and the survivor back. Remember that the spear gun is not hit scan. Instead, the projectile exists as an entity. This means that you have to predict your shots and guide your spear gun well in order for it not to miss. The hitbox is pretty thin, so you can shoot from any holes you find around the map, which can lead to some insane shots when done right. However, remember that shooting an injured survivor and not being able to hit them will give you absolutely nothing, so only go for shots that will guarantee a down in case they are injured already. The Executioner, or Pyramid Head, is a hybrid killer with average speed and a normal terror radius, able to inflict torment onto survivors, and also hit them through walls with his ranged attack. Pyramid Head's power is the Rites of Judgment. By pressing and holding your power button, Pyramid Head will stab his sword onto the ground, breaking the floor underneath and creating the Rites of Judgment. His movement will be limited, however, and he cannot go back unless he cancels the power. These Rites of Judgment will stay on the ground for some time, and any survivor walking over them will get inflicted with the Torment status effect, as well as have their location revealed with Killer Instinct. Survivors can crouch over the Rites of Judgment to pass them without getting the Torment effect. While carving the ground, Pyramid Head can also perform a special attack called Punishment of the Damned by slashing the ground forward. This will create a wave type of attack that will injure survivors on contact, and this attack works in a curious way. It will travel gradually on the ground, and it will penetrate any type of wall or obstacle on its path. The only thing this attack cannot penetrate is air. Instead, the attack will reach the hole and stop there. The attack also cannot go upwards, but it can go downwards like the basement stairs if you start it on a flat surface. The attack is 8 meters long by default. Survivors that are tormented will have razor wires stuck on their screen and also leave a small visual trail whenever they are running. This status effect has no effect on the survivors themselves, but it does allow the Executioner to perform his Cage of Torment on them. By interacting with a survivor that is downed and tormented, Pyramid Head will instantly teleport them to a Cage of Torment that will spawn at the furthest point possible from you. This will count like a hook state, but it won't trigger any hook related perks, so keep that in mind. This cage will remove the torment effect from the survivors, and also any tormented survivor that saves them from a cage will also get their effect removed. The special thing about this power is that if the survivor has no more hook states left, instead of caging them, Pyramid Head will perform Judgment, and with a quick slash of his sword, he will kill the survivor on the spot. Pyramid Head is considered to be one of the strongest killers in the game, but also one that requires a lot of skill and luck in order to hit those range attacks. So it's not a character I would recommend to beginners, but it's definitely someone you should try playing after getting the hang out of the game. Remember an important detail: if you find a caged survivor and you stay close to them for some seconds, they will teleport away in order to prevent you from camping. The Blight is a very fast-paced killer with average speed, a normal terror radius, and a power that allows him to have one of the best map mobility powers in the game. The Blight's power is the Blighted Corruption, and he has 5 tokens by default. By pressing your power button, the Blight will rush himself forwards at high speeds, but he cannot attack during this initial rush. Instead, Once you collide with an obstacle or wall, you will be able to chain rush by consuming one of the 4 tokens left. During this lethal rush, you can attack survivors, and attacking a pallet or breakable wall will destroy it. You can stop your rush attack by attacking and missing, by not chaining any further rushes, or by simply not colliding with any obstacles, by which point the Blight will enter a fatigue period where he will inject the putrid serum onto himself. Yep, he is an addict, and that's all for his power. But the thing that makes him extremely strong is the combination of his absolutely busted add-ons and the weird techniques that Blight professionals discover. This is the 2nd strongest killer in the game, and for a reason. You can do some insane tricks with him, and new tricks are constantly being discovered. There are plenty of resources online to learn this character, so if you're interested and you enjoy the playstyle of the Blight and you want to elevate it further, try searching for G-Fleeks, Hugh-Techs, Moon Rushes, or just search for Lilith Omen, and he has an amazing guide that will teach you some insane tricks. The twins are a very unique pair of killers, as they are 2 killers in one. Charlotte, the big sister, has average speed and a normal terror radius, and you start the match with her. Charlotte has nothing special going on for her, as she is just an average character. She can destroy pallets, hook survivors, and injure them with her basic attack. The special part is Victor, her small brother, and you can bring him out of your body by pressing the primary power button. While controlling Victor, Charlotte falls asleep. She won't be emitting any terror radius, and instead she will simply stand still. You can switch back to her by pressing the secondary power button and switch back to Victor with the same method. Victor, unlike Charlotte, is extremely fast, very small, and has no terror radius, and is unable to break pallets or generators. He can search lockers, however, so if Victor finds a survivor inside one, that locker will be blocked for 10 seconds, and you will switch back to Charlotte to finish the job. He also cannot see scratch marks or auras of any kind, but he is able to see pools of blood. Instead, what Victor has is the Pounce attack. By pressing your power button while controlling Victor, you will be able to charge a Pounce attack and launch yourself forward like a projectile. If you hit a survivor, Victor will attach himself to them and they will be unable to perform any actions besides vaulting windows and pallets, and also they will become oblivious. If any other survivor comes close to them while Victor is attached, Charlotte will be able to see them with killer instinct. Survivors instead will have to crush Victor off their backs by interacting with him. Once the bar is filled, the survivors will throw Victor to the ground, killing him. Victor will later spawn back on Charlotte's body. If a survivor chooses not to crush Victor and hold him hostage, you're able to recall him after 30 seconds have passed. If Victor hits an injured survivor with his Pounce attack, he will instead down them, but he will enter a long and slow 5-second cooldown period that will prevent you from switching to Charlotte. And worst of all, if Victor misses his Pounce attack, he will enter a 3-second fatigue. During any of the 2 fatigues, if a survivor comes close to Victor, they will be able to kick him, killing him in the process, so he will have to respawn on Charlotte's body. You can also stop controlling Victor and leave him on idle. While in this period, Victor will have a tracking aura around him that will reveal survivors coming close with killer instinct. However, if survivors are crouching, they won't be revealed by Victor. Survivors that come close to Victor can actually crush him if they find him idle, so you need to be careful. Also, Victor will automatically come back to Charlotte after 90 seconds have passed. You cannot use your power near any hooked survivor, so be careful about that. Also, keep in mind that a survivor with Victor attached cannot escape the exit gates, however, they can still escape from the hatch. The twins are one of the most unique killers in the game, as no other character offers you the ability to control 2 characters in the same power. However, they are also the least played characters in the game, due to the fact that their power is very buggy, and you might find a glitch while playing that might ruin your enjoyment of the characters. Also, they are French. Jokes aside, these characters are supposed to receive a rework in 2024, so I hope by that time they are finally fixed. The Trickster is a ranged killer with a slow speed, a 24 meters terror radius, and a 40 meters lullaby. He is the complete opposite of the Huntress. The Trickster's power is called Showstopper, and it allows him to throw knives at survivors in order to hurt them. By default, he has 44 knives. By holding your primary power button, you're able to enter the throwing state, which will slow you down even more, and each click you will do will throw one knife forward. You can also hold the attack button in order to keep throwing knives forward, but the more you throw, the higher the recoil will be. Each blade you hit will make a sound and show a hit marker, and it will fill up the laceration for the survivors. If you stop hitting them with blades, the laceration meter will slowly deplete with time. Once 6 blades are hit, the survivor will be injured, or downed if they are already injured. If you run out of knives, you can reload them in a locker just like the Huntress. For each knife you hit, you will charge your secondary power main event. You need to hit 30 knives in order to activate the main event. Once the power is active, you will have a 30-second activation window where you can start the main event. If you don't, that power will be lost and you will have to charge it again. Once you activate the main event, Trickster will start to throw infinite knives for 10 seconds non-stop, and after the main event ends, you will enter a 5-second fatigue period where you'll not be able to throw any knives anymore. I do not recommend this character to any new players. He is complicated to play and he feels either terrible or extremely strong. There is no in between, and it all depends on map knowledge and knowing which loops are good to take or not. A Trickster that has main event can completely turn the match to his favor with just one usage of it, so knowing when to trigger it is also key to demolish survivors easily. The Nemesis is an anti-loop killer with average speed and normal terror radius, and he also comes with 2 zombie friends that will work independently. But first, let's talk about the main guy, Nemesis. By pressing your power button, Nemesis will bring out a tentacle, which will allow him to perform the tentacle strike. This attack will go over pallets, windows, and some low obstacles, and it has a 5-meter range. Hitting a survivor with a tentacle strike will contaminate them first, and also give the Nemesis some progress into increasing his mutation to tier 2. If you hit a contaminated survivor, you will injure them, and also increase your mutation rate as well. Whenever you reach tier 2 of the mutation rate, a global sound will play, alerting all survivors. After that, you will be able to break pallets and breakable walls with your tentacle strike. On tier 3 of the mutation rate, this sound will play, and it will increase the length of your strike by 1 meter, and also slightly increase your speed while holding the attack. There is no way to decrease the mutation rate of the Nemesis. In order to remove the contamination, survivors will have to search for supply cases that have a vaccine inside. Once they get the vaccine, they will be able to apply it to themselves, removing the contaminated status effect. This will, however, alert Nemesis of your location, as well as play a loud noise. Let's talk about the zombies. These zombies will roam around the map passively, and will spawn after a short period of time at the start of the match. If any survivor makes a loud noise, the zombies will investigate the area. If any of them find a survivor, they will raise their arms and start chasing them. If they come in contact with a survivor, they will attack, contaminating them if they are healthy and injuring them if they are contaminated. This won't give any mutation rate points for the Nemesis, however. Survivors can delete the zombies with a pallet stun, but they will revive later on a different hook. Survivors can also flash the zombies in order to stun them in place for 15 seconds. The funniest part is that you can actually punch the zombies with the Nemesis, killing them, and you can also tentacle strike them in order to get mutation points. There is strategy involving with this, as you can kill zombies to force them to spawn somewhere else, in case they roam far away from the action. The Nemesis is super simple to play, and he has one of the best pallet breaking abilities ever. It's important to reach mutation tier 2 as fast as possible, so you can start breaking pallets, removing resources around the map. Zombies can sometimes be extremely useless, or very clutch, but at worst, they are still very useful as a tracking tool in order to know where the survivors are found. The Cenobite is a hybrid character with average speed, a normal turn radius, and a secondary objective for survivors that will make them suffer in pain. Cenobite's main power, and the only power, is the Summons of Pain. By pressing the power button, you're able to spawn a gateway that will travel further the longer you hold the power button. Once you stop holding the power, the gateway will open, and you will be able to summon and control a chain in order to trap survivors. If a survivor is hit with a chain, they will get 2 extra chains on them, and they will become slowed, cannot interact with generators, can only slow vault pallets and windows, and also they cannot escape the exit gates. Survivors can break the chains by holding the action button, and also chains will instantly break if they come in contact with any type of surface, wall, or even the killer himself. However, the Cenobite has a secondary objective that is very important and cannot be ignored: the Lament configuration. This box will spawn at the start of the match on the furthest point possible from both the killer and the survivors, and survivors will be able to see its aura 24/7, but the Cenobite cannot. If the Cenobite finds the Lament configuration, he can pick it up and start a chain hunt, revealing the location of all survivors in the map by making them scream and constantly spawning chains that will harass survivors and prevent them from making most actions. This chain hunt will also start passively if no survivor interacts with the Lament configuration, and you can see how long is left in the HUD icon. It takes 90 seconds by default. One survivor has to pick up the Lament configuration in order to solve it. A survivor holding the Lament configuration will have the Oblivious status effect, and the creepy lullaby will be constantly playing. They can start solving the box, which will alert the Cenobite with killer instinct. It is right at this moment where the Cenobite can teleport to the survivor holding the box, which will count as the box being solved, making it spawn again after 45 seconds and resetting the progress for a chain hunt. If a survivor solves the box without the Cenobite teleporting to it, it will count as exactly the same. And this is the most crucial part about playing the Cenobite. If the Cenobite finds the survivor holding the Lament configuration, he can take down that survivor and solve the box himself, forcing a chain hunt to start. This is why the best Cenobite players will always try to keep the location of the Lament configuration in mind in order to interrupt survivors that are solving it, just so they can keep an infinite chain hunt from going. This killer requires a lot of macro game strategy, and as such, I do not recommend it for new players. The Artist is a ranged killer with an average speed, a normal turn radius, and who is able to snipe survivors from anywhere in the map. The Artist's power is a mix between a ranged killer and a setup killer. By using your primary button, you will be able to summon Birds of Torment that will aim forward to the direction you are looking. These birds will stay idle for a period of time, and after that, they will disintegrate and return to the Artist. You can place 3 by default. Once placed, you can press the secondary button to activate the birds, making them fly forward in a straight path for an infinite range. These birds will act in a different way depending on what they hit. If the bird hits a survivor without any obstacles in between them and for a short distance, not counting pallets and windows, the survivor will be injured. You can see the range of the attack on the ground, and this will follow the physics of the ground at the start, meaning that you can make the birds fly down or up depending on where you summon them. However, if the birds go through an obstacle or after the range is ended, they will instead become a swarm. Any survivor hit by this swarm will be swarmed, revealed to the killer from anywhere in the map, and survivors will have to repel the birds, either by performing a continuous repel action that will reset if you perform any action, or by simply entering a locker. A survivor can also become swarmed if they come in contact with an idle bird. Swarmed survivors can be hit again with a swarm of birds in order to injure them. This can lead to the artist being able to down survivors from anywhere in the map if you have enough skill level and game knowledge. However, if at any point you miss, but the birds pass very close to survivors, a killer instinct will show you the location of that survivor. The Artist is one of the strongest killers in the game thanks to her ability to shut down loops. Once you summon birds on a certain loop, you can guarantee hits with enough skill, so survivors will try to leave them in order to find another loop. and you can use this to your advantage to hit them again with a swarm. She is also one of the only killers that is able to multitask and defend generators while chasing a survivor, or even injure two survivors at the same time, but this requires a lot of coordination and macro strategy. The Onryo, also known as Sadako Yamamura, is a stealth killer with average speed, a small turret radius of 24 meters, and a 24 meters lullaby. If you ignore her curse, you might end up dead. Sadako's power is divided into three main parts, with the first one being her invisibility. Sadako starts the match the Manifested, which makes her undetectable, she is unable to attack survivors, and also has no collision. She cannot get stunned by pallets, but she can break them, as well as generators and breakable walls, and she will appear invisible 24 meters away, and will appear like a ghost from up close. Survivors will also hear her lullaby when they are close to a demanifested Sadako. Sadako can manifest back into the real world by using her primary power button, which will make a noise and will allow her to attack with her basic. There is also a short invisibility period of time after you manifest that can trick survivors that are not very attentive, so you can use this to your advantage in some scenarios. You can return to the manifested by the same method. Sadako can also manifest herself through a TV. In the match, various televisions will spawn close to generators, and Sadako is able to teleport to any television that is on, which will turn off that TV for 45 seconds, and will give her a 10-second cooldown to not spam her teleports. Every time Sadako teleports to a TV, all survivors will get 3/4 of a condemned stack, which is part of her curse. Survivors will have to interact with the televisions in order to retrieve a cursed tape. These cursed tapes will turn off the TV you interact with for 70 seconds. A survivor that is holding a cursed tape will not get any condemned stacks from Sadako teleporting around. Survivors can put the cursed tape on a TV and remove 3 stacks of condemned. However, if Sadako hits a survivor that holds a cursed tape, the tape will break and that survivor will receive 2 stacks of condemned. Once a survivor reaches 7 stacks of condemned, they will be cursed, revealing their location for 6 seconds with Killer Instinct. If a Sadako catches the cursed survivor and downs them, you can instantly eliminate them from the match with your inexorable stare, bypassing any hook states. Sadako is a very hard character for beginner survivors, as most of them have no idea what to do against her. You can play her in such an aggressive way that you could kill all survivors without hooking them once, which gives her a unique gameplay loop compared to the rest of killers. However, outside of mathematics, she is very simple and doesn't offer much skill expression. The Dredge is a hybrid killer with average speed, normal turret radius, and a combination of anti-loop, mobility, and stealth. The Dredge's main central power is called the globing, and they are able to enter this state by holding the power button. Once activated, the Dredge leaves a remnant behind. You have 3 choices in this mode. First of all, you can cancel the gloaming by simply stopping holding the power button, which will remove the remnant automatically. Second, you can choose to teleport back to the remnant you placed before by attacking in this mode, and you will be facing towards the direction you were when you first put your remnant, which is the most important aspect of your power as it allows you to put survivors in very bad positions. The final thing you can do is teleport to any of the lockers in the map, and each locker teleport will consume 1 token, allowing you to teleport to 3 lockers by default. Doing so will make a loud noise that survivors will be able to hear if they are close to this locker. If you don't exit the locker, it will start making a weird sound, which will reveal the location of the Dredge. If you teleport inside a locker with a survivor inside, you will instantly grab them, playing this cool animation. Using your teleport in any way will make the power enter a cooldown period. Survivors have 2 ways to counter Dredge. The first one is that they can interact with any lockers in order to block them, which will make Dredge take extra time in order to leave it, as they will have to break the lock. However, be careful, because if you interact with a locker and the Dredge teleports to that locker at this moment, you will get a surprise. If there are 2 lockers side by side, only lock one of them, and the Dredge will be forced to teleport to the locked locker first. The Dredge can break these locks at any time with a basic attack. Survivors can also walk to the remnant in order to break it, which won't allow the Dredge to teleport back to it. And this is not even all, because we haven't even started talking about the secondary power of the Dredge, Nightfall. Anytime a survivor is injured, a survivor is hooked, the Dredge teleports, and passively, Nightfall will charge. Once Nightfall is close to happen, you will hear this sound. Once Nightfall begins, the map will be engulfed in darkness for 60 seconds, and all survivors will hear the crying sounds of an entire cult doomed to suffer for eternity. During Nightfall, the Dredge teleports insanely fast to any lockers, and they will also get the undetectable status effect. You will also trigger Killer Instinct anytime you teleport, and survivors are near you for 16 meters. All survivors will also be highlighted in white, as well as the Dredge. However, even if the Dredge has the undetectable status effect, survivors are able to hear the Dredge coming from a mile away, because they are one of the most loudest killers in the game by far. The Dredge has a lot of interesting aspects to their power, and they are thematically one of the scariest killers in the game. Dredge is very map dependent, as the teleport is fully tied to lockers being placed in good positions, so with enough practice, you will be able to recognize what are the best places to teleport in order to harass survivors and generators. And don't sleep on the remnant, as this is the main power you will use to prevent survivors from looping, as it will force them to engage in a 50-50 mind game. The Mastermind, also known as Albert Wesker, is an aggressive killer with average speed, a 40-meter stare radius which is the biggest in the game, and with one of the most fun powers ever. Wesker's power is called Virulent Bound, and he has 2 charges of it by default. Pressing your power button will charge a bound attack, which will make Wesker dash forwards with incredible speed. You have 2 of these charges, so you can dash twice, with the second dash being double the length. You can vault windows and pallets with your Virulent Bound. If you hit any survivor with your bound, you will grab them and infect them with the Ouroboros. There are 3 things that can happen. The first one is if you grab them and you hit an obstacle or a wall, in which case Wesker will injure that survivor or automatically grab them if they were already injured. If Wesker doesn't collide with anything during his bound, he will throw that survivor away, and if the survivor doesn't hit anything, they will only get infected with the Ouroboros, but if they hit an obstacle, they will get injured. If you hit another survivor with your bound attack, the second one will get the deep wound status effect, but they won't be infected. Wesker's infection will grow passively once someone has the Ouroboros on them. If you don't cure the Ouroboros infection, you will run slower, and also if Wesker grabs you, you will instantly be downed. As well as the cooldown of your power will be shorter for each survivor infected. Just like with Nemesis, survivors will find supply crates around the map that contain healing sprays. These sprays have 2 uses each, and you can spray your teammates too in order to cure their infection. This will reveal your location with a killer instinct to Wesker. Wesker's power is very simple to pick up and play, but it actually has an insane amount of techniques that elevate his gameplay, like the Uro bending, which is turning your camera while in a bound to get nasty hits on survivors, or hook techs, which are incredibly difficult to perform and require a lot of practice and knowledge. You can also rebound with your power in certain structures, allowing you to get hits you otherwise wouldn't even dream of getting. Overall, Wesker is a very strong and fun killer to play with. The Knight is a control killer with average speed and a normal terror radius, able to summon and command 3 helpers in order to multitask during a match. The Knight's power is the Guardia Compania, which will allow him to summon one of 3 helpers with the use of his power. The helpers, in order, are the Carnifex, represented with a skull, the Assassin, represented with a dagger, and the Jailer, represented with 2 keys. Each of them has their own unique attributes. You can see which guard you will summon by looking at the icon that appears on your right hand. These will cycle in the same order as they are named by default. By pressing your power button, you enter the summon mode. You won't be able to see survivors when in summon mode, as well as see their blood or scratch marks, but you will be able to hear them. In this mode, you can direct your guards to perform a specific task. If you summon them normally, they will follow the path you made with your camera until they despawn, and if you summon them at a generator, pallet, or breakable wall, your guards will break them. The Carnifex will break things almost instantly, whereas both the assassin and the jailer will take some time. Summoning the guards 10 meters away from you will also give you a small speed boost for a limited time in order to catch up to survivors faster. A guard that is summoned normally will follow the patrol path you set to them until they either despawn, you hit them with a basic attack, or they find a survivor, and their detection range is shown on the ground with a blue circle effect. The jailer is the guard with the biggest patrol area, the fastest movement speed while patrolling, and the longest time on patrol phase. Once any of them has found a survivor, a hunt will start, which will set a banner on the spot where these guards first saw the survivor. After a brief period of time, a horn will sound, which will activate the banner. If a survivor touches this banner, they will get a boost of speed and the endurance status effect, which will protect them from a hit. The hunt will also be over. The other option they have is to escape the hunt by outrunning the guards. The guards will bypass any windows and pallets during a hunt, and also if you enter a locker, these guards will injure you once dead or directly down you. The Carnifex will chase the survivors for the longest amount of time, whereas the assassin will chase them the fastest and also inflict deep wounds on them. Jailer has nothing special while on the hunt phase. If any of the guards hit a survivor, you will see a Killer Instinct notification and the hunt will end. A hunt will also end prematurely if any survivor unhooks another one as to prevent camping. The Knight is an amazing multitasker, able to chase two survivors at the same time, and able to defend generators from afar. Knowing which guards to use depending on the situation is crucial, as Carnifex will allow you to break pallets extremely fast, and the Assassin will be the character that gives the most trouble to survivors. Jailer can be used to detect survivors in case you don't know where they are hiding. Despite being possibly the most complex power in the entire game, it's not that hard once you get the hang of it, as it doesn't require much mechanical skill to use. The strongest way to use Knight is to simply instantly spawn a guard next to a survivor and chase them to a corner, where you are basically guaranteed a hit unless you screw up. The Skull Merchant is an aggressive setup killer, with average speed and a normal tear radius, able to set up a web of drones that will detect and potentially injure survivors that are not careful. The Skull Merchant has 6 drones by default that she can set up in specific places in order for them to scan around survivors. By pressing your power button, you will get 8 seconds of undetectable and you will deploy a drone exactly where you stand, which will run a scan forward and it will also start to scan around its surroundings. The drone will start in stealth mode, where the scan lines will be invisible to everyone, but once it detects a survivor, it will enter scan mode, where the scan lines will be visible in orange. A survivor that is scanned will receive 1 stack of lock-on, and once a survivor has 3 stacks of lock-on, they will get injured if they were healthy, or deep wound if they were injured, and also they will get a claw trap on their body. A claw trap will have a battery of 45 seconds. Survivors with a claw trap that are scanned will be revealed by your tracker, as well as they will be slowed down by 6 seconds, which is very useful. The Skull Merchant also has a radar, which you can use to track survivors' location with the claw trap or survivors detected by the drones. This radar will also show the elevation of the survivors in case they are above or below you. While holding this radar, you can press the attack button to recall the drone you're aiming at back to your inventory, and also you can change the rotation of the drone scanning lines by using your power button while looking at a specific one. Survivors can hack the drones in order to disable them. Once they come in contact with a drone, they will have to complete an arrow minigame in order to disable the drone for 45 seconds. However, if you fail, you get 1 lock-on stack. Scully can recall the hacked drones back to her inventory and just replace them. You cannot place drones near hooked survivors, and any drones near them will be instantly returned to you. The Skull Merchant is a character that rewards smart drone placement in order to track the location of all survivors in the map and to both injure and annoy them with your claw traps. Or, You can also just spam your drones constantly while in a chase in order to leave survivors with no options other than taking the damage or the slowness, and abuse your 8 seconds of stealth in order to play as a semi-stealth character. The Singularity is an aggressive setup killer with average speed and normal terror radius who is able to set cameras and clone himself right next to survivors. By pressing the main power button, the Singularity will aim his arm in order to place a biopod in the place he's aiming at. You can place 8 biopods by default all over the map, and you can keep replacing them with new biopods or shoot them with your power in order to destroy them. By pressing your secondary power button while looking at a biopod, you will be able to enter that biopod and control it, allowing you to both monitor locations instantly, change between different cameras, as well as tag survivors with a slipstream if you have visual contact with them. Once a biopod shoots a slipstream, it will enter a cooldown mode where you cannot shoot anything again. Here is the fun part. If you tag a slipstream survivor with your camera, you will instantly teleport next to them after a short cooldown, and you will enter overclock mode. You can also shoot at a slipstream survivor yourself in order to teleport right next to them. During overclock mode, the Singularity cannot be stunned with any pallets, as he will instantly destroy them and finish his overclock state, and also you will vault windows extremely fast and break thrown pallets, breakable walls and generators 75% faster. However, during this state, you are not able to interact with your cameras in any way, nor shoot any other biopods again. Overclock mode lasts for 4.7 seconds by default. However, with each survivor slipstreamed, the overclock duration will be longer. Survivors can also infect other survivors with the slipstream if they stand close to each other. A very important thing to note is that biopods that are near a hooked survivor will work insanely slow for as long as the survivor is hooked there, and if you enter a biopod near a hooked survivor, you will suffer from a longer cooldown than usual when waking up. Survivors can counter both the biopods as well as the slipstreams with EMPs that will constantly spawn in 3D printers around the map. Survivors can either pick up the EMPs or they can also interact with the 3D printers in order to generate a new one faster. These EMPs will automatically destroy any slipstream inside the radius of effect, as well as disable any biopod inside it for 45 seconds, which will show up in a red effect to the Singularity, and he will be unable to slipstream any survivors with that biopod. The trick to playing Singularity right is not to use him as a camera killer, but rather use the cameras while in chase, as they won't care if your cameras are EMP'd, as you can replace them almost instantly. You can set some of the 8 cameras in places of high traffic just for the information and for the possible future opportunities in order to know where survivors are located, and if played right, you can be in constant chases for the entirety of the match, as there is basically no downtime with the Singularity if you play him right. The Xenomorph is an aggressive killer with average speed and a normal terror radius that has insane map mobility, as well as a very strong anti-loop power in the form of crawler mode. Xenomorph's power is divided in 2 parts. Anytime the Xenomorph is in play, a set of control stations will spawn all over the map, as well as a system of tunnels that only Xenomorph can enter, which it can do so by interacting with any of the control stations. Once inside, Xenomorph will move insanely fast, and it will allow it to leave the tunnels through any of the control stations found around the map, as well as charge his secondary power, crawler mode, but we will talk about it later. The Xenomorph will be able to hear survivors from inside the tunnels, and also survivors that are on top of the tunnels will produce visual footsteps that the Xeno will be able to see from underground. You can also use your secondary power while looking at a control station in order to mark the fastest route in the tunnels for you. Survivors, on the other hand, have flame turrets, which they can pick up from the control stations. These turrets are heavy and don't allow a survivor to run with it, and you can set them up anywhere you like. These turrets will have a beeping proximity alarm which will indicate how close the Xenomorph is to the flame turret, and it also works when the Xenomorph is underground. So if you hear the beeping sound, that means it's close. Now let's talk about crawler mode, which is the main power of the Xenomorph. It will be constantly charging in a passive way, but the best way to charge it is to just use the tunnels. Once you are in crawler mode, Xenomorph will walk on 4s, your turret radius will be reduced to 24 meters, and it will be able to use its tail attack. This tail attack will launch forward and can bypass low walls and vaults, injuring survivors in the process. Once a Xenomorph leaves a tunnel, all flame turrets will be deactivated for a short period of time, and you will be able to see any survivors close to you with Killer Instinct. By this point, flame turrets will be activated again, and they will start shooting a stream of fire to the Xenomorph. If you don't break the turrets with your basic or tail attack, you will be forced out of crawler mode. Once a turret burns Xenomorph enough, it will break. Survivors can repair this turret by interacting with it, and they can also reposition the flame turrets anytime they want. A maximum of 4 flame turrets will be available in total around the map at the same time, and any broken turret will have to wait 1 minute in order for it to be available to pick up at a control station again. The Xenomorph's mobility is absolutely crazy, as it has 0 cooldowns or conditions, unlike the other killers we have discussed. The tail attack is also really strong, as it makes a lot of survivor loops very unsafe, like windows, pallets, and even dead zones. As a Xeno, you need to take care of the turrets and destroy them at all times, because losing crawler mode basically removes your only power. And yeah, by the time I made this video, the new November killer is not out yet, and there's no shot I'm adding an extra 4 minutes of theory crafting, so whatever, just click in the middle for when the killer is out, and thank you for watching and have a nice day.